What's up, everybody? I hope you've all been having a great long weekend. For those of you who had the day off today, I hope you're enjoying yourself. Welcome back to the channel for another episode of NHL Over or Under. We did one of these earlier this summer, wanted to get in at least one more before the season starts. If you're brand new to the channel and you're not sure how this series works, it's a pretty simple concept. Basically, I make a post on the community tab and I ask you guys to give me a player name and a point total. A goalie name and a save percentage total also works, things like that, and I'll pick a bunch of them out and I'll try to predict in this video if the player will go over or under the given total this season. As always, I want to give a huge thank you to every single one of you who took the time to leave a comment on the post. There's almost 300 as of the time I'm recording this, so huge thank you to all of you. You guys make these series so much fun for me to do. If this is your first time checking out the channel and you want NHL content just like this all year round, hit that subscribe button. We're getting super close to 75,000. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get this episode started with the first question from Biased Sports Fan, who says over under 10.5 teams getting 100 plus points. Last year, for reference, 12 teams got 100 points or more. This year, I expect a lot of teams' point totals will change drastically for the better and for the worse. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this matter. So like you mentioned, there were 12 teams this past season to hit the 100 point mark. The season prior, there were 13 teams. So just based on how things have been trending, I'm going to go ahead and take over 11.5 teams hitting the 100 point mark. There's definitely a few teams that had 100 points this past season that I don't think will achieve that mark this season, but then there's also some teams that didn't hit 100 plus points that I think could this season. So this one's really one of those questions where you kind of just got to throw a guess out there and hope it works out. So I went back, and the last time there was actually 5 rookies or more to hit 50 plus points in a season, it was the 2017-18 season. There was 7 rookies, and those rookies included Matthew Barzal, Clayton Keller, Yanni Gourde, Kyle Connor, Brock Besser, Alex DeBrincat, and Nico Hischier. That was a stacked rookie class. So it's definitely been a while. Now there has been a couple of shortened seasons in between now and then, which you have to factor in, but like you mentioned, this is supposed to be a pretty stacked rookie class. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I'm expecting Connor Bedard to hit 50 plus points. I think Fantilli could do it. Logan Cooley. I think Luke Hughes is capable, so that's 4, but no one else really jumps in my head as somebody who I'm kind of expecting to hit 50 plus points, and I'm sure one of the guys I just mentioned, or maybe even more than one, won't hit that mark. So I'm going to have to play this one safe. I'll go ahead and take the under, but I hope I'm wrong because I would like to see, another year like 2017-18 where it was just an insane Calder Trophy race and there was so many good rookies putting up big point totals. Speaking of rookies and Logan Cooley, this next one comes from Gibby 2008, who says over under Cooley and Gunther 100 points combined, with Cooley hopefully being a Calder finalist and Gunther being on the roster full time. I hope as a Coyotes fan they can exceed that, and also really appreciate the kind words. So like I just mentioned when answering the previous one, Logan Cooley is one of those rookies that I think is more than capable of having a 50 plus point rookie season. I think he's going to have a massive impact on the Coyotes this year. He's somebody that I'm really high on, and Dylan Guenther got into 33 games with the Oats this past season, was almost a half point per game player. I'm expecting both of those guys to play in the top 9, so you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take the over on this one. Sure, why not? I think I could definitely see a scenario where Cooley has, 55 to 60 points, and then Guenther's in, the 45 to 50 point range. Moving along now, this next one comes from James McKinnon, who says Patrik Laine over or under 40 goals. With a healthy, talented Blue Jackets squad, I could see a line of Laine, Fantilli, Gaudreau being absolutely electric. We know Patrik Laine has all the tools to be a 40 plus goal scorer. It's kind of crazy that he's only done it once in his career, and that was his sophomore season where he scored 44 goals. I believe he finished second in the league in goals that season, only behind Ovechkin. The big thing with Patrik Laine is just him staying healthy. He hasn't played 70 or more games in a season since his 3rd year in the NHL, which was back in 2018-19 where he played all 82. I'm going to go ahead and take the over on this one. If healthy, I think Patrik Laine is more than capable of putting up 40 plus goals in a season on this Blue Jackets squad. He should have some talent playing around him. Like you mentioned, a potential Fantilli, Gaudreau, and Laine line sounds very exciting. This next one comes from Jake Parise, who says Luke Hughes over or under 50 points. Seeing how productive Quinn did in his year 1, gotta wonder if Luke can do the same. Also, really appreciate the kind words. Again, similar to what I said about Logan Cooley, Luke Hughes, another one of those rookies that I think is definitely capable of putting up 50 plus points in a season. He is so gifted offensively, and playing on a young, fast, up-tempo New Jersey Devils team, I think his play style is going to fit beautifully. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and take the over on this one too. There is a good amount of people out there that actually think Luke Hughes is going to be a better defenseman than Quinn Hughes, which is pretty crazy because obviously that bar is really high. Quinn Hughes is one of the absolute best offensive defensemen in the league, bar none. And I wouldn't be surprised if, a year or two from now, Luke Hughes is also looked at as one of the best offensive defensemen in the league. I think he's going to be a beast. This next one comes from Jordan Fish, who says Jared McCann, 90 points. I personally think it's not going to happen, but I would love to see it. He's an underrated player who did score 40 goals last season. I do think that he could very easily put up a point per per game though. I'm with you on this one. You said you don't think it's going to happen. I don't either, so I'm going to take the under. Jared McCann is one of those guys who I don't really think has the playmaking abilities that you need to be a player that can put up 90 points in a season, but like you mentioned, he did just score 40 goals. He's got unreal finishing ability over the past 2 seasons with the Kraken, 67 goals and just 53 assists. McCann has turned out to be an unbelievable player for the Kraken, but again, don't really think he has the playmaking abilities to be a 90-point player. This next one comes from Blue Line Hockey, who says Shea Theodore over under 45 points. I feel like he has been elite, but just coming short on his point totals, and I think he's able to even reach 50 or more, but tell me what you think. Also, really appreciate the support. Glad you like the videos. Yeah, this is an easy one for me. 1000% taking Shea Theodore over 45 points. This is a guy who had 41 in just 55 games this past season. I'm making all these predictions in the assumption that these players are all going to stay healthy, which probably isn't going to happen, but you know, you can't really just predict injuries. You said how you think Shea Theodore could even have a 50+ point season. This is a guy that I feel like if he stays healthy, you know, plays 75 or more games, could easily be a 60-point defenseman. Shea Theodore is so good. Moving along now, this one comes from Baseball, who says Aiden Hill over under a 920 save percentage. It'll be interesting to see if he can do what he did on last year's playoffs for a full season. As we all know, Aiden Hill was unbelievable for Vegas in the playoffs, played such a huge role in them winning the Stanley Cup. I'm going to take the under on this one though. I don't expect him to have, you know, those numbers across a full season. He had a 915 save percentage in 27 games for Vegas this past season, was really good for them, and that's kind of what I'm expecting from him again, you know, in the range of 915 to 910. There was actually only 6 goaltenders in the entire NHL this past season who started 15 or more games who had a save percentage of 920 or greater. So that's setting the bar pretty high. That's the best of the best. That's among the NHL's elite goaltenders, and I'm not really expecting that from Aiden Hill. Next up, this one comes from The Amazing Gamer, who says Matt Boldy, 75 points. Boldy really broke out last season, and I feel that no one is talking about him. I definitely feel that he could get 75 points with how talented he is. I'm a big fan of Matt Boldy. I think I drafted him in either the second last round or the last round of my fantasy draft this past season, and he turned out to be a pretty valuable player for my fantasy team. I remember watching Matt Boldy as a rookie score his first career hat trick against the Red Wings, which as a Red Wings fan was pretty tough, but man, Matt Boldy's a beast. He's somebody that I think is going to be a perennial point per game player for a long time for the Minnesota Wild. I think 75 points in his 3rd season is definitely achievable. I'm going to take the over on this one. Continuing on now, this next one comes from Cole Dale, who says Mackenzie Blackwood, 905 save percentage and 20 wins for his first year with San Jose, and also appreciate the kind words. I'm definitely going to have to take the under on this one. I could see him having a 905 save percentage or better, definitely, but what's making me take the under is definitely the win total of 20 or more. I think the San Jose Sharks are going to be terrible this season, and that's a team that just won 22 games as a team this past season, so I feel like 20 wins for just Mackenzie Blackwood himself is pretty far-fetched. Got to take the under. This next one comes from Tracer, who says Josh Norris over or under 65 points, and also really appreciate the kind words. I think everybody knows that Josh Norris is definitely talented enough to put up those kinds of point totals. I'm going to take the under on this one though, just because I feel like we should all keep our expectations in check, guys. He's coming back after a season in which he played just 8 games, missed pretty much the entire year, had shoulder surgery. If Josh Norris comes back and, you know, plays 70+ games and scores 20 to 25 goals and is around the 50-point mark, I think that should be looked at as a successful season for him. The next comment we have comes from Danny Gotchapunk, who says Shane Wright, 30 points. I feel he has a good chance to be in the lineup this year for Seattle, but in a mid-6 role and second line PP, so I think he'll do good for what he plays in, but not like team leader. So Shane Wright's kind of a tough one. I honestly am not 100% convinced that he's going to make the Seattle Kraken's opening 8 roster. They have a really deep team, especially down the middle. I'm genuinely curious to see where Shane Wright plays this season. Obviously, this is a guy that I think we can all agree has nothing left to prove in the Canadian Hockey League, but he's still only 19, and technically he would have to go back to the CHL and wouldn't be allowed to play in the AHL just yet based on the agreement the NHL has with the CHL. Seattle Kraken's GM Ron Francis kind of commented on this and said, you know, he hasn't really got into it yet, but there is a kind of a scenario where Shane Wright maybe could play in the NHL. It's really weird, all the rules that they have when it comes to, you know, prospects eligibility to play in the AHL, or they have to go back to the CHL. But I kind of feel like all that noise and confusion could actually help Shane Wright's case to make the Seattle Kraken, as they could just keep him up with the team, because again, I really don't think Shane Wright has anything left to prove in the CHL. I don't think that would do anything for his development at this point. This is a guy that I think should definitely be playing in either the NHL or the AHL. I think that's what would be best for Shane Wright. I think I might go ahead and take the under on the 30 points, even if he does make the Kraken and, you know, plays 60+ games with them. He's not a guy that I expect to have, you know, a real explosive point production rookie season. Again, especially on a team like Seattle, who is really deep. So I think I will go ahead and take the under on this one. The next comment we have comes from Pierre, who says Marco Casper over or under under 9 games played with the Red Wings, and also appreciate the kind words. I think I'm going to have to take the under on this one. Casper did make his NHL debut this past season, played just one game, but he actually got injured in that game. Marco Casper is somebody who I'm expecting to start the season with the Grand Rapids Griffins. Marco Casper is somebody who I'm expecting to start the season down in Grand Rapids. If he were to make the Red Wings, he would have to have an unbelievable camp in preseason and knock out at least like 1 or 2 veterans out of the lineup who are kind of expected to make the team, which definitely isn't out of the realm of possibilities, but I think most likely scenario, he starts in Grand Rapids and plays the majority of the season down there. I think we'll see him at least get a handful of games with the Red Wings, but not enough to burn a year of his ELC, so I'm taking the under here. This next one's a real fun one from Derek, not Derek, who says all 3 Hughes brothers combined over under 230 points. So I'm expecting a 100-point season from Jack Hughes. I think he could even be in like the range of 105. Quinton Hughes just had, I believe, a 76-point season. I think he'll probably be in that range again, 75 to 80 points. So let's say we're at, 180 or 190 right now. So that leaves us with what, like 40, 50 points Luke Hughes would have to score for them to, hit the over or hit 230. And I think earlier in the video, I already predicted Luke Hughes to score 50 or more points. So I'm going to go ahead and take the over here. I think all the 3 Hughes brothers are going to combine for 230 or more points, which sounds crazy, but if they all stay healthy and play a full season, they could definitely do it, which is just insane. 3 brothers putting up those kinds of numbers. Their parents must be damn proud. The next comment we have comes from Sports Fanatic, who says Quinton Byfield 55 points. So Byfield really through his first 2 NHL seasons hasn't gotten the opportunity to play really big minutes just yet. Averaged about 14 minutes of ice time per game this past season, which is more than he had in his rookie season, and I do expect that to go up a little bit this year. But when it comes to Byfield, like, this guy long term you want to be a center. He was drafted as a center. That's part of what made Byfield such a fascinating prospect. The fact he played the center position at his size with his skill set, a really rare breed. But when you look at the Kings depth chart, like, he's not playing ahead of Kopitar in the lineup. He's not playing ahead of Philip Deneau. He's not playing ahead of Dubois. And do you really want him as your 4th line center, heading into his 3rd season? I don't think that would be great for his development either. So you have to imagine he's probably going to play the wing unless you want him playing on the 4th line. And yeah, I guess playing, in the top 9 in the wing is better than being the 4th line center. But at some point, you got to get this guy prolonged looks at the center position. I think I'm definitely going to take the under of 55 points. That would be a pretty massive jump from, 22 this past season in 53 games to having a 55-point season. I just don't know if the opportunity is really going to be there for him yet to play the kind of minutes and get the kind of power play time that you'd need, to reach that kind of point total. I think with Byfield, it's going to be more of a gradual improvement season after season, so I'm taking the under here. The next comment comes from JD, who says Barrett Hayton 59.5 points. I think I'm going to take the over on this one. Barrett Hayton took a massive step this past season, 43 points in 82 games. I'm expecting the Arizona Coyotes to be a lot better of a team than they were this past season. He should have a little bit more talent around him. This is a guy that I'm definitely expecting to probably be their 1st line center on opening night, and then maybe have Logan Cooley as the number 2, see if Schmaltz stays on the wing. Based on what we've seen last season and what I'm expecting from the Coyotes this year, I think 60 points for Barrett Hayton is definitely achievable, so I'll take the over on this one. The next comment we have comes from Andrew Nixon, who says Vezina Trophy winner save percentage over or under 930. So I went back and looked at the last 20 Vezina Trophy winners, and 9 of those last 20 had a save percentage of 930 or better, so almost half. This is another one, similar to, I believe it was the first one we answered in this video. You kind of just have to throw a guess out there. I'm going to go ahead and say under, just because the last 2 seasons we've seen, Linus Ullmark won the Vezina with the 930 or greater, almost 940 actually, which was nuts. And then the year prior, obviously, Shesterkin at a 935. So I think maybe we might be in for a year where the Vezina Trophy winner has less than 930 save percentage. And now for the final comment of this episode, this one comes from Ethan, who says Alex Newhook over or under 40 points. I'm smashing the over on this one. I'm a big believer in Alex Newhook. Last offseason, before, this past season started, I predicted him to have a breakout year. Didn't really happen. Still played fine in kind of a limited role with Colorado, had 30 points in 82 games. I made another video predicting breakout players earlier this offseason. I had Newhook in it again. I think in Montreal, likely getting a bigger opportunity, probably going to be playing consistently, in their top 9, maybe even top 6, getting power play minutes. I think this is a guy who can easily smash 40 points. Wouldn't be surprised if he's in, the 50 to 55 point range. So that is going to wrap up this episode of NHL Over or Under. Again, like I mentioned at the start of the video, huge shout out to every single one of you who took the time to come up with a player and point total, to leave a comment on the post. You guys make these interactive videos probably the most fun videos I make on the channel. If you enjoyed and you want to see another interactive video in the near future, leave this one a like. That's the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this is your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this all year round, hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all soon.